Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be doing an overview of the 4 different factions that you can join in addition to the Constellation faction, which is required as part of the main storyline. These are the Ryujin Industries, which we're standing in front of their offices right now, the Freestar Rangers, the Crimson Fleet, and the UC SysDef. So these 4 factions are completely optional to join. However, each one comes with kind of its own unique storyline, with the exception of Crimson Fleet and UC SysDef, which is kind of combined into one storyline. So when you join these, you'll go through a whole unique list of missions that'll take you through, again, a unique storyline for each one. And at the end, you'll get some pretty good rewards as well, which I'll talk about. So if you go through each one of these factions, I would say, depending on how distracted you get with other things, it's probably going to be about a 4 to 6 hour commitment, I would say, on average. And that's about, I would say, how long it took me to get through each one of these, depending on the faction. But I think it's well worth it. It was super enjoyable to go through these. I'll kind of talk about what each faction is like and what the missions are like for each one, again, and as well as the rewards that you'll receive. So Ryujin Industries was the first faction that I signed up for and completed, so we're just going to start there as a starting point. You can kind of kick this off naturally. If you happen to run by a Ryujin Industry kiosk, you'll automatically get a prompt to apply for a job there. However, you can just kind of take matters into your own hand and just show up at the office. You have to start your first mission here anyways, and there's also a kiosk inside, so you can go up to the kiosk. It'll ask for like a job application, and there's questions that you have to select. I don't think it really matters what you choose, but the interview process once you start the quest did reference my answers, so keep that in mind. But in terms of what ends up happening, I don't think it really has any difference. So this is located on Neon, which is on the planet Vol2 Alpha, which is in the Vol2 system, and in relation to kind of Sol and Alpha Centauri, this is where it's located there. So if you want to join this faction, kind of the first step would be to go to this planet, go to the kiosk, and apply for a job at this spot here. And then also, I guess worth noting where this is actually at on Neon. It's pretty easy to find. It's at the very end of this walkway here. The spaceport is right there, so you'll land your ship, go through a walkway, you'll come out right there, and basically just hang a left, and you'll run right into it down at the end here. So once you've got your interview scheduled, the next step is to take this elevator. That's going to take you to the actual Ryujin Industries offices. You'll be spending a lot of time there as you go through that whole mission line. Just to kind of give you a flavor, I guess, of what this faction is like and the missions and the gameplay involved, I would say it's very sort of corporate espionage-y. There's a lot of stealth and breaking into areas, lots of dialogue with like persuading people and like other competing companies, things like that. The storyline itself I thought was very intriguing, and you do have to make some interesting choices, and there's lots of like within Ryujin Industries, there's some like inter-company politics that you're gonna have to wade around and things like that. I would say it's probably the least action heavy of all of the faction choices. So if you're looking for something where you're gonna be, going in and guns blazing and shooting and all that stuff, this probably isn't gonna be your favorite. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but it is, again, very kind of stealth heavy and whatnot. So in terms of skills, things like security are gonna be very beneficial here, completing the missions. Persuasion would be another good one, as well as things like stealth. So that's kind of the overall gist of this mission. Again, I don't want to give too many details, but that's kind of the type of gameplay that you're going to be experiencing with this faction. Also, one additional call out for why I kind of really enjoyed going through this particular storyline was just the fact that it takes place on Neon, which is a very cool city. I enjoy the vibe of it quite a bit. And it'll have you, exploring all the various areas of Neon, and that atmosphere, I think, kind of added to the storyline and the experience of completing this faction storyline. Now on to the good stuff, which is the reward that you receive for completing all this. And obviously, in addition to like credits and experience points that you'll get for going through all these missions, you also do come out with a pretty powerful reward, which honestly I think is kind of an argument to do this one first, and that is the manipulation skill. So you'll get this for free, and obviously you could get this naturally by putting your skill points into the social tree, but I think you need to invest 12 points total to finally get to manipulation. But if you go through this quest line or the storyline, you can get this for free, basically early game right off the bat if you were to go directly to this. And what this does is, if you open up your scanner, you'll now have, if you hover over people, on the bottom left hotkey bar, you can see press E for social. And now I can manipulate people. So I can manipulate him, and I can have him go over there. So he's going to go walk over there. This can have a lot of different uses. Again, why I kind of think this would be good to do first, because it helps out in future missions, other faction storylines. And like if you're trying to get past security, you can have security guards move somewhere else like I just did. I could have had that guy, if he was standing in front of a locked door and he had a key card, I could manipulate him to use his key card to open up the locked door so I could get through there rather than trying to pick the lock or some other route. I've gotten through some locked doors pretty easily that way. Again, I think that it's a very useful skill, and again, one of the reasons why it's worth doing this faction, not only doing it, but maybe doing it first so you have that available right away. Also, I will note, again, not to give anything too much away, but there is part of the storyline where I thought I might lose that skill based off the decisions I made, but I ended up keeping it at the end. So I don't think you can lose it based off your dialogue choices, but there are some dialogue choices that I thought would lead me to maybe losing that skill, and it didn't end up happening. So just keep that in mind. Also, finally, one thing I forgot to mention with the benefit of the manipulation skill as well is that it opens up new dialogue options. So when you're trying to like go through a process of persuading somebody, you'll now have new dialogue choices that are manipulation dialogue choices, and that can help you, again, sort of successfully persuade somebody when you're going through that process. Moving on to the next faction that we're going to cover, which is the Freestar Rangers. This is located in Aquila City. If you haven't been here yet, where this is at, it's on the planet of Aquila, which is located in the Cheyenne system. And then again, if we use Alpha Centauri and Sol as kind of a reference point, that is where it's at in the universe. So Aquila City, walk in. Again, if you haven't been here, you'll kind of be forced into this interaction. This guard will stop you and say that there's a bank robbery in place, which is happening here. That'll lead into a whole situation. After that's done, that'll kind of lead you into joining the Freestar Rangers, which their building is this guy right here. So now we're inside that building, which again is kind of like the headquarters for the Freestar Rangers. You'll be coming here for all your mission debriefs and things like that. In terms of what this faction is like and what the storyline and the gameplay is like, I would say if, Ryujin Industries is sort of cyberpunk Blade Runner, I would say this is more space western. If you've seen the TV show Firefly, very similar. I got kind of a Firefly vibe going through this one. So if you're into that, I think you'll enjoy this as well. Definitely more action heavy compared to Ryujin Industries, but there will be opportunities where you do need to like sort of pull out your gun and fight your way through some of the missions. The storyline, again, it's kind of the general concept of you're a ranger and there's this main case that you need to investigate and go to various planets and track down leads and all that stuff. Some of that, again, does lead to violence, so it is a little bit more action heavy. I wasn't quite as invested, I would say personally, as I was to the story in Ryujin Industries. I got a little bit indifferent in the middle. However, at the end, it does pick up a little bit, I would say quite a bit, and there's a kind of a twist where you kind of figure out everything that's ended up going on and you kind of get all the answers, which I thought was well done and I enjoyed. And there's also a pretty big final mission where you do a lot of that gunfighting and action heavy type stuff. So if that's what you're looking for, more of like the first person shooter aspect of Starfield, I would say this is one of the better ones to choose as well. For the main reward of completing this quest line, you get this bad boy, which is the Star Eagle, which is a pretty awesome ship, and particularly early game is probably a huge upgrade to whatever you're using currently. The main thing why this ship is so awesome is the cargo capacity. So if you look, this has 2,500 cargo capacity. So most of like the starting ship and like most of the early game ships are going to have like 400, 500 cargo capacity. So this has a ton of space. So if you're in a position where you keep running out of space, highly recommend going through this mission. If you're not going to like spend money to build a ship or whatever, you can go through this quest line and get a ship, which overall is a good ship, but also has tons of cargo capacity as well. All right, so now that leads us into kind of the third and final storyline that you can do via factions. So as mentioned, there are 4 factions, but there's 3 storylines because they combine the UC SysDef and Crimson Fleet faction storyline into one, basically. However, at the end, you are going to have to choose a side, and it will kind of prompt you pretty clearly, like this is the point where you're choosing this side or this side. The way this one kicks off is kind of funny. You have to get arrested to start this faction storyline. You can do that by going to a store and just randomly stealing something, getting caught. If you have contraband, you could try and go to a planet, get scanned, you'll get arrested there. Once that happens, that'll lead into the whole dialogue where this guy will say, hey, you joined the UC SysDef, we'll waive all the charges, etc., and that leads into this whole storyline. In terms of what this faction storyline is like and what it's all about, I would say this is kind of the big epic quest of the three. It's going to certainly take the longest time, I think, to complete. And also, it kind of combines a lot of aspects of Ryujin Industries and a lot of aspects of Freestar Rangers in the sense that there is kind of a lot of dialogue, stealth, things and whatnot that you have to do, and then there's also a lot of action-heavy things that you have to do. So there are a wide variety of quests. There are some parts where you're gonna have to, again, pull out your gun and shoot your way through some things. There is a really big space battle that you're gonna have to go through. So overall, this is kind of the big sort of grand finale, I would say, of the three faction storylines. Again, I don't want to give too much away because it is a cool experience kind of going through this yourself and experiencing everything without knowing what's going to happen and things like that. But generally speaking, kind of what this storyline is all about is you start off, again, joining UC SysDef to get out of those charges from being arrested. And they have you infiltrate the Crimson Fleet pirates. So in this case, UC SysDef is kind of the quote-unquote good guys. The pirates are the bad guys. And you're going to be going undercover, joining the Crimson Fleet, and then you'll report back to UC SysDef with all this stuff that's going on. This one, what kind of has, I would say, the biggest choice that you have to make. So there is a point where you do have to choose sides. Are you going to be a pirate, or are you going to, choose kind of the good guys and join the UC SysDef and take their side? And then based on what you choose does end up impacting kind of the entire world to a certain extent, and your reward that you receive. So this one definitely has kind of the biggest decision that I would say that you have to make at the end of this one. So whether you end up choosing UC SysDef or Crimson Fleet, the kind of the main reward is going to be the same. You're going to get 250,000 credits regardless. There are some other differences though, and I think probably the benefits are more on the side of joining the Crimson Fleet. However, that comes with some negatives in the sense that if this matters to you, you're kind of choosing the bad guy route. You'll have some narrative interactions that will kind of reflect that now that you're sort of a pirate. Your companions probably aren't going to be very happy with you. However, that does continue to give access to the space station that they have, kind of their main headquarters, which has some vendors. I think they have like a custom ship builder with some custom ship or special ship parts that you can get from there and things like that. I joined the side of the UC SysDef, as you can see, so I didn't go that route. But some other things that you get by joining the Crimson Fleet is you also have access to a new companion that is also part of the Crimson Fleet. So at the end of that, you can have access to him as well. So quite a few things to consider when making the decision, and you might want to just do some extra research to get all the details if you're very concerned about that. In terms of the UC SysDef side, really just kind of the main benefit there is that you're choosing the kind of the role of the good guys, if you will, and your companions and things like that are probably going to be a little bit more happy with that decision, and you'll have some more positive narrative reactions from NPCs out in the world. Again, I chose the role of UC SysDef. Another consideration as well is I believe if you join the Crimson Fleet, then all of those pirates out in other planets are kind of now your allies. So that is kind of reducing the action of the game, I think, which is, I would say, is a negative. All of those sort of random fights that you might encounter with them are now not fights because they're allies, not enemies. So that's something to consider as well. One final thing that I haven't really touched on is kind of a benefit that you get from completing these storylines is that you also get access to a mission board for each one of the factions. So this kind of just allows you to continue playing that role if you want to keep picking up related missions. And once you complete it, they're usually right nearby within whatever the headquarters is. So within Ryujin Industries, it'll show you where it's at. The Freestar Rangers, it's in that headquarters. UC SysDef, it's right here. So you can see the mission board for this one. If you open that up, it's just going to give you some side quests that you can pick up that, again, are kind of in the role of that faction. All right, so wrapping things up, we're back on Neon in front of Ryujin Industries. I just got done partying at the Astro Lounge, hence the outfit. So hopefully this video was helpful and informative and you enjoyed it, and hopefully helped maybe identify some of the content that's available in Starfield. Again, if you're looking for some really good sort of side story missions, in addition to the main story quest, I think these are really good options to take a look at, not only just for the enjoyment of the content, but the rewards that you receive. So prioritizing this early game especially, I think you can get some really good rewards to kind of help upgrade your character quite a bit right off the bat. So I'll kind of leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and we will see you later. Bye.